Welcome back to Concrete Conversations. Today, we're going to be talking about starting out right, the essential training for new concrete contractors. Tim, welcome back.
Thanks.
Had a couple of great podcasts lately. This one's going to be exciting because for people getting started, for people new in business and looking to get started with their own DIY addition to what they're currently doing, being able to do jobs correctly is really important. And when it comes down to concrete, you've mentioned it before, Tim, there's what are those 3 rules of concrete?
Yeah, it's guaranteed that it's going to crack.
Yep.
It's guaranteed that it's theft proof and it's fireproof.
We're primarily talking about not just slab concrete. We're talking about concrete overlays. We're talking about decorative concrete here, where you've maybe already got an existing substrate, but we're actually going to go over it to make it look beautiful. So Tim, first, when you're doing this sort of work, how do you estimate job pricing?
You have to take a look at the job. A lot of times I'll have people email or text a picture of what they've got, and you can give kind of a ballpark, knowing, how many square feet that they've got, how many days it's going to take, what they kind of want. But in all reality, you need to go out and take a look at it for a number of reasons, obviously, so you can meet the folks and make sure that it's a great fit for your company and for them, that you build expectations, you can inspect the substrate, which is really important because each substrate is going to be different, obviously. Concrete's all the same, but it's not. Sometimes you're going to run into issues where they've got a lot of cracking. You're going to run into issues where it might have alkali silica reaction, which we can talk about at some point during another podcast. But you don't know. You might have salt damage. You might have a whole slew of different things. So you're going to want to inspect the substrate so that you can accept it. Because once you decide you've accepted the substrate and you go over it, you're technically owning the substrate too. So if anything's deteriorating or whatever, you might want to pass. But for the most part, you can cover up just about anything. And when you're out there, obviously you want to show some samples. You want to show them some pictures, maybe a brochure, whatever kind of sales tools you're going to take out there. You're going to measure it, get the exact square footage, and then you're going to design something with the customer. Decide maybe they originally wanted flagstone, but then you might want to recommend something different, the way that the joints are laid out. You're just going to want to meet with them, give them guidance. And then a price. You need to know what your own costs are and what your material costs are, and obviously what profit margin you want. And then from there, you guys can negotiate back and forth and get something that works for everybody.
So when we're talking substrate and we're talking existing concrete, I've seen everything from, like you say, areas that are just seem to be deteriorating to oil stains, cracks. How do you deal with those sort of things when preparing the substrate?
Well, oil stains, are not too difficult to get out. A good degreaser that has a surfactant and an acidic component to it, so that you can get the concrete pores opened up a little bit, and then the surfactant, or a detergent, so to speak, will suspend that. You can rinse it off with a power washer. Cracks are cracks, and you're going to really need to honor those. I know there's a lot of people that try to cover up cracks, but ultimately they're going to crack back through. So incorporating them into a pattern is a really effective way to do that. But cracks are cracks. So bridging it with something or filling it with something, it's going to end up coming back at some point. So if you can use it as a part of the pattern, that's really the best way to go.
Right. So you go out there, you've done your estimating, you know it's a viable job, you come to an agreement. So what's the process? Let's say we've got like a couple of 100 square feet that we're covering on a patio. What's the process?
On a patio, interior and exterior applications are a little different as far as prep. On a patio, a good power washer is going to take out all the embedded contaminants and be real easy. So you're going to power wash it, and then depending on the pattern and the choice of colors that they choose, you may need to put a base coat down. So you if you did, you're going to basically mix up the cement-based material. You're going to trowel it out. For a base coat, you want it as smooth as possible because you're going to end up putting tape over the top of that. Or if it doesn't require a base coat, you can just start taping your pattern onto the existing concrete. Instances where you would definitely need a base coat or something where you're going to dictate a light colored grout line. Two, if you've got something like exposed aggregate or cool deck or a salt finish concrete or some heavily damaged salted concrete where they've been throwing de-icer on it for years and it damaged it, or sprinklers, the alkalinity and the water in many cases, like here in Arizona, will actually damage the edge of the concrete. So that's most likely going to be something, if it's heavily damaged, where you're going to want to base coat it, but you wouldn't normally have to.
So Tim, you're talking about taping. For those who don't know, and probably people thinking, so why are we taping off concrete? Is that for the edges or is that for patterns? What's the story with the tape?
It's really for patterning. So if you were doing, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to replicate something that looks natural. So if you were doing a saltio tile, you obviously wouldn't use an 1/8 inch grout line. You'd use a 3/4 inch grout line because that's what the real deal looks like. If you're doing a slate, probably a 3/8 inch tape to create a 3/8 inch grout line. Flagstone has random grout lines, so we use 2 tapes on that. We use one that is a paper filament tape for strength, and then we weave another one across it, which is it's like duct tape, kind of. It has a white glue on it so it doesn't leave residue on the surface, but you weave that back and forth. So you're getting a random grout line that's 7/8 to a 1/2 inch where you cross it back and forth. But the tape is really what's going to lay out the pattern for you to trowel over the top of.
Okay, so you lay that, and does that tape stay in place when the job's done? Is that what creates the pattern, or?
No, you're going to pull the tape.
Oh, okay.
During the drying process, which isn't very long. So you don't want to wait too long to pull the tape because some of it can get stuck underneath the concrete coating. And then it's going to be not really fun to take it up. But knowing your timing and things like that, I usually pull the tape when I'm out opening up the expansion joints, which is real important. We have to honor our expansion joints. But I'm out there in socks or bare feet, cutting open the expansion joints with a margin trowel, making them look real nice and pretty. And then at that same time, I'll pull the tape.
Got it. Okay, so we're looking at style, we're looking at patterns, we're looking at replicating different types of stone that you can actually find out there. What are the styles that are popular, and what are the styles that you find most installers are doing?
Well, flagstone's been probably the most popular for many, many years. And I think lately the slate pattern is really probably overtaking that, but you can do anything. Wood grain's real good. It looks terrific, and it's kind of a mind blower when you see a concrete patio that looks like wood. Travertine is another good one because it's usually done in larger patterns. Texture, so it looks just like a piece of stone, added with some borders in, is just a really clean, nice look that everybody seems to like. But you can do almost anything you want. You can tape any kind of a pattern you want. I really don't recommend doing brick because first off, brick is kind of inexpensive, so to speak, certainly a lot less per square foot than slate. And it's just an awful lot of taping.
Right. So that's outside, right? I doubt you're power washing and, doing base coats inside, or are you? Like, what would be the process if you're working inside a house?
Well, it would be determined on what was in there. If somebody's had linoleum or carpet or something like that, you may or may not need to grind it. But if they've had tile or something that's a lot of glue, like parquet flooring or whatever, you're going to end up needing to grind that. And it can be ground with a hand grinder, or if you've got better equipment, there's walk behind grinders that do a real nice job.
Okay, and then what is the process? Just to then clean up the dust, mop it? Obviously, you're not pressure washing it inside, but is that the case where you just mop up at that point?
Yeah, you would vacuum it first,
Okay.
and then from there, I like to mop it once with a no rinse cleaner, and then after that, I'll do a light acid wash, like 10 to 12 parts water to 1 part of the muriatic acid. And that what that does is, if there's any latents of cement dust paste in the pores, that's going to loosen that up. And then you mop it off another one. And then I recommend mopping it to clean water. So you may mop 2, 3, 4 times until you've got clean water. You just want to make sure 100% that you haven't just put contaminants in the surface that can create a bond breaker.
Got it. My mind's racing with all the different job options that you can do, from concrete floors inside houses and industrial warehouses. I know the warehouse business is exploding, and the amount of work putting in floors, because when you're dealing with robots, they actually want a smooth concrete floor.
Right.
The robots in the warehouse are a huge deal. The companies are investing millions and millions of dollars in that area. And then with the housing boom, people are upgrading their houses. It's very stylish, concrete floors inside the house. And then obviously boring concrete outside is being covered with patterns, because those kind of people want beautiful outside concrete as well on their patios, driveways, walkways. So coloring, I've seen everything, but give us an idea and give our audience an idea of what people are doing color-wise, both inside and outside.
And again, it goes back to trying to replicate something that's natural. So we have a lot of different coloring systems we use. Some of them are powders that can be rubbed on to give you different colors in the same stone, so to speak. Slates can be done like that. We've got colorants that mix up that we use that can be sprayed on. There's acrylic colors that also can be sprayed or rubbed on. A lot of these colors, dispersion type color, can be mixed into the grout. The grout's white to begin with, but like say if you wanted a light gray grout line, you'd put a little bit of gray in the mix itself. So when you trowel it out, it's all gray. Then if you wanted a different color for the top, you'd mix that color in. And then from there, you can either spray, rub, sponge, really just about anything to get the accents and the color that you want. If you're doing travertine, you would color it significantly different than you would a slate, or flagstone would be colored completely different than wood. It just depends. What you're trying to do is replicate so that when people look at it, is that real or what?
Right.
And that's the point.
Okay, so that's sounds like outside stuff, but I've been in houses where I've seen these beautiful burgundy and black, concrete floors throughout the home. What is that?
Well, it could be either a cement-based floor, which is really, again, seamless flooring is really popular right now.
Yeah.
So it could be cement-based, like we're talking about right now, or it could be an epoxy or a metallic, or there's a lot of different things, or there's the stain. It really depends, again, what somebody's budget is and what they want to end up with. But seamless floors are really popular because they look good. They're easy to keep clean. You don't have to worry about cleaning grout lines every so often or all the time. And you can have the color you want. Now, I always tell people that when they're looking at grout line colors for tile, that in reality, there should only be one. And it could be a dark brown gray color, and it's called eventually, because that's what happens to tile floors.
Right, eventually. That's great. So those polished concrete or epoxy flooring in homes, is that also a process that, through you, contractors can come and actually learn how to do?
Yeah, for sure. That once you understand the basics, they're really the same thing. So if you wanted to do a polished concrete floor, you're going to have the good grinding equipment, obviously, but your seal choices are going to be really similar to what you're going to put over the top of an overlay. So, if you're doing interior floors and you're grinding your substrates, to go from there to a grind and seal, or even going crazy and doing a complete polish. Those are just different variations on the sort of things that you're going to be learning in the beginning stages of the coatings industry anyway.
Where can people make the most money with? What's the most popular at the moment?
Probably the interior, exterior, epoxy metallic floors are really, really popular for interior. They're fairly easy to do. They're pretty quick. They bring a nice profit margin. Exterior, you don't want to be using an epoxy. So you can also do a cement-based coating. Interior, it's very popular. It looks so different than anything else. But outside, probably the overlays, the cement-based overlays outside are just really profitable. They're quick, they're fast, they're easy. They don't require a lot of equipment. They don't cost a lot per square foot to put the material down. They're just really profitable. And most of your jobs are in the probably 400 to 1,000 square feet range. So it has a nice margin to it.
Okay, so you're a business. You don't want to shut down for a week to have your floors done. How do businesses handle this? Like if you're a restaurant, you can't close for a week. How would they go about, or how would you go about pitching a restaurant?
Well, there are stains that can be done much quicker. There's a product called 1 Day Stain, and it can be actually done after hours and then opened up the next day. Some contractors don't mind working on holidays. I can't tell you how many 4th of Julys where they've actually closed down the restaurant for a couple of days and gone in there and remodeled at that point. Or, a good sized place, they can close half of it off so while you're working for a couple of days, and then they'll open that side up and close the other half off while you're working in there. So it's really not that difficult. None of these things are going to require an extended amount of time, like doing tile or doing stone, where you have to have everybody off of it completely for a long extended period of time. And, if you need a transition point to get across some work, while you're not working on it, you can roll out some paper, and people will typically walk on that, put some fencing up, not really fencing, but, barrier, right, where they can get, through there or whatever. So it's fairly easy to work around that. But you're right. People don't want to be closed down for a week. That's just not going to happen. So you're looking for products that are really pretty quick and easy. And the cement-based overlays are. We've done tons of wine bars and things like that and worked around their schedule. And also you get it to the point where you can open back up very quickly, just in a day or two. Got it.
So you talk about color outside. Thing comes to mind for me is weather resistant. Is the color a self sealer, or do you add a sealer? What's the story of protecting the color so it stays vibrant and stays true?
Yeah, there's a sealer that goes on top of it. Different sealer inside than it is outside, but the outside sealer is UV resistant. It does a really great job of protecting it, locking in the color. And then if somebody wants it to look brand new again in a couple of years' time, you can go out and take a power washer. If there's any little parts that need to be touched up, you can touch those up, put a brand new coat of sealer on there, and it looks brand new. In fact, I've got a customer that I did a job for probably 15 years ago. And they called me. They've taken the grill out that they had. They're putting in a much bigger outdoor kitchen. So they're adding on to some concrete. And one of my local guys, Scotty, is going to be going over there and doing that, adding on to the job. But he's also going to change the color completely. So right now they've got a slate that has greens, rust colors, and some brick reds in it. It's really fantastic looking, but they're kind of changing up that scheme and painting the house at the same time. So he's going to go over there, completely change the color, add on to it, reseal the whole thing, and it's going to look amazing. And it's a big job. It's 2,000 square feet. I think they're adding on 1,000. So that's a big job, and it's like I said, I'm pretty sure it's right at about 15 years old to begin with, and it looks fantastic. I've got a job that's 30 years old here in town, and I've knocked on, it's in a retirement home. So I'm not sure anybody lives there right now because it's in the summer, but it's just turned 30 years old, and I'm going to go over there and offer to reseal that for them just to get the video.
Got it. So last question then, maintenance. You mentioned 15 years. Does it take a lot of maintenance on these floors, or tell us about maintenance?
Well, it doesn't require really any maintenance. It just depends on how you want it to look. Obviously you buy a new car and you keep it waxed and you keep it in the garage, it's going to look fantastic for a long time. If you buy a new car and you leave it out in the sun, you never wax it, you never take care of it, you never wash it, it may not look so great in 4, 5, 10 years, right? So it's just like that. So if you keep it clean and you keep it maintained, and now on my particular job, I do mine somewhere between 3 and 5 years. So I'll clean it up, touch anything up that's necessary, and reseal it, and it looks brand new. If I was a consumer, I might want to do that every 2 years. I might want to do that every 3 years. But when I do a project, I say, hey, look, this has a 10-year warranty on it. However, after the first 2 years, it's a maintenance agreement. So for X amount of dollars, which isn't a lot because going out and cleaning and resealing something doesn't take a lot of time or material. So if you go out there every 2 years, clean it, get paid on doing some work again, that job's going to look fantastic for a long time. And so you've got a 10-year warranty that's available to the customer, but it requires maintenance every 2 years. It's guaranteed income. They're happy that you're tied to the job for that long. And that's transferable. So I always tell them, if you sell your house, you can transfer this warranty to the next owner, and it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, that's great. So if someone wanted to get trained on this and get started with it, how can they do that? Where can they find training?
Well, I do live training in Phoenix, Arizona for iCoat products. And I have distributors in Simi Valley and Minnesota. I do training twice a year in Kentucky. So we've got training centers that are kind of scattered around all over the place. I got a guy in Texas that can do training on job sites, but they're also available on video. So if somebody wants the videos, they're on our iCoat YouTube page, and they're also on our website, which is www.icoatproducts.com. And from there, it's the same seminar that I teach. So if they got a little bit of product, got some sample boards, followed along, made showroom samples, and then went out and did their own patio or their buddy's patio or their sister's patio, whoever got a little bit of practice, that's a good thing. And they can do that from the videos. But they're going to have questions. And I always tell people, look, just ask your questions to me, call me on my cell phone, text me, whatever, send me a picture of your substrate and I'll give you some ideas, because that's important too, because any training, whether you take a driving class, that doesn't make you an expert driver. What it makes you is somebody that's out there doing it. And once you get out there doing it, you need to have that support. And that's what we do. We support our product lines, and we are available all the time to troubleshoot, to say, hey, this looks bad right there. Do this differently next time. Clean up your edges, honor your joints. Understanding what to do is great, but understanding what not to do is even better, because then you're not going to have any issues. And that's what we offer. But you can get started by just watching the videos and getting a trowel and just putting some of it down.
Well, that's great. You could even do your own home to get started. So Tim, thank you so much for joining us today. Again, for everyone listening, subscribe to our podcast, Concrete Conversations. Also, reach out to Tim at icoatproducts.com. He's got phone numbers on there. You'll actually get directly to the man himself. And again, Tim, thanks again for joining us. That's great information. And I'm sure that there's going to be people out there with many questions. So until next time, thanks for joining us on Concrete Conversations.
Thanks.